to study the budget speech that had been presented to the House, and business is expected to be resumed today on the budget speech that was presented by the Minister of Finance and National Planning.
And of course, Pauline, after that proposal to adjourn business until today, the House did adjourn at 17:32. Just about now, we'll take a short break. On the other side, we'll be looking at what the order paper indicates, and that will be the business ahead of us. Stay tuned. Right, welcome back. Outlook of the order paper today. We have one question for agent nature, that is understanding orders number 74, and three questions of an ordinary nature, understanding order number 74. The agent questions are understanding order number 76, and the ordinary nature questions are understanding order number 74, and then we have the motion of supply. So I'm pulling some quick highlights of the questions that we have.
Yes, the question under 76 is coming from Kalabo Central Member of Parliament, Mr. Chinga Miutu, and this is a question to the Minister of Health, and he wants to know whether government is aware that there is a critical shortage of insulin at all public health facilities in Kalabo district, and he also wants to know, if so, what urgent measures are being taken to ensure availability of insulin in the district to prevent loss of lives.
Right, and after that we move on to a segment which has questions for oral answer, understanding order number 74. The first one, which is question number 51, comes from Pambasha Member of Parliament, Mr. Ronald Chitotela, directing a question to the Minister of Community Development and Social Services, and wants to find out why the government awarded a contract for the procurement of motorbikes at a high price of over 130,000 kwacha each, and which companies participated in the tender. Further wants to find out which company won the tender, and when the contract was signed, and whether the contract has been cancelled.
And we have a question coming from Kasenengwa Member of Parliament, Mr. Philemon Twasa MP, and he wants to find out from the Minister of Mines and Minerals Development whether government has issued any mineral exploration licenses in Kasenengwa district, and if so, how many licenses were issued and when the licenses were issued, and he also wants to know what the findings from the explorations were from March 2022.
The third question comes from Winilunga Member of Parliament, Mr. Newton Samakai, directed to the Vice President, and wants to find out whether the government has any plans to create a district in Lumwana area in Mwinilunga district, and if so, when the plans will be implemented. And after the questions for oral answer segment, we now expect the House to continue consideration of the motion of supply, and certainly this is about policy debate arising from representation of the budget that the Minister of Finance and National Planning did present on Friday.
Yes, Julia, so those are the questions that are going to be considered on the floor of the House, and we also have the motion of supply. That debate is going to start or open today, and the members of Parliament are expected to make their contributions on the speech that was presented by the Minister of Finance and National Planning last week on Friday, when the national budget was presented to the House. And just now, we take you to the floor of the House as the Speaker's procession makes its way into the chamber. Good afternoon.
Honorable members of Parliament, Madam Speaker.
Land and sing of Zambia, proud and free, land of wealth and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for the right. We won freedom's fight.
Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and just government of the people, we beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and a faithful manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country, and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Honorable members, I have one announcement to make, and the announcement is as follows. I wish to inform the House that in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 1665, I have reversed the following appointments. 1. Committee on Cabinet Affairs. Mr. O.M. Amutike MP's appointment to the Committee on Delegated Legislation, and therefore he goes back to the Committee on Cabinet Affairs. 2. Committee on Delegated Legislation. Mr. S. Halazo, MP's appointment to the Committee on Cabinet Affairs, and therefore he goes back to the Committee on Delegated Legislation. I thank you. Matters of urgent public importance. The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my matter of urgent public importance is directed to the Minister of Home Affairs. In his absence, the leader of government business.
Proceed, Honorable Member. What's the matter of urgent public importance that you want to raise?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the matter relates to the crisis on the Copper Belt, specifically Chililavombwe district, Kasumbalesa border border. Madam Speaker, more than a week now, we have our SADC drivers from different SADC countries who have refused to cross into the DRC, fearing for their lives as a result of one of the lives which was lost across the border in the DRC. Madam Speaker, the attempts by some cabinet ministers in trying to resolve the impasse has not yielded positive results. And this is now posing a security challenge in the border town of Chililavombwe. As of yesterday, I think the Honorable Minister for Commerce and other ministers who tried again to persuade the drivers to start moving failed to yield positive results. And now these SADC truck drivers are demanding for the attention of both the Zambian Republic President and the Congolese President. Speaking from experience, Madam Speaker, this challenge requires urgent attention. I've had a chance to resolve that similar impasse in 2013 when I was assigned, when I was merely a deputy minister, I know the consequences of having that situation protracting could be a very big challenge for both countries. I seek your guidance, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member from Fuwe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Matter of urgent public importance directed at the Minister of Home Affairs.
Proceed, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as you can see, today I came in black because, Madam Speaker, I'm sad, I'm heartbroken, and I know that the country is also sad, and they are not happy with the turn of events. Madam Speaker, I'm referring to the issue of the 13 girls that were abducted. They were sexually abused for 6 months approximately, because we only knew of a girl named Pamela Stupa, who was a manual booth operator. But we were shocked, Madam Speaker, yesterday to discover that not only was she alone, but she was abducted together with other 12 young girls. Madam Speaker, as you saw from the video, one of them is even heavily pregnant, and they were sexually abused. By the evidences that we saw in the video, there were used condoms, there were all sorts of things. Madam Speaker, we are worried as a country, and we are scared, and we want answers from government as to why the police remained quiet. Because, Madam Speaker, what usually happens is if there's anything of that nature, we would hear the police warn the public to say that girls must take care of themselves. There are men on the loose who are abducting. But the question that we have is that, Madam Speaker, why were the police quiet? They remained mute. They could not even warn the public. And another question is, why is it that they didn't say anything? Is it that the parents, Madam Speaker, never reported these cases, or what could have happened? The other fear, Madam Speaker, is that these things are happening in Lusaka, where there's network. There are all facilities that could have helped the police even to track these criminals. Madam Speaker, I seek your serious ruling. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Chama South. What's your matter of urgent public importance?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my matter of public urgent importance is on honor the Vice President of the Republic of Zambia. Madam Speaker, the people of Chama South, Chief Tembwe, Chief Chikwa, and Chief Chifunda are on the verge of starvation. There is no food in many areas because of human-animal conflict. Areas like Mapamba, Pondo, much of Ntembezani, Kapichira, these are critical areas such that if the office of Her Honor the Vice President does not distribute food now, early next month or late this month, it will start raining and it becomes practically impossible to reach these people. Madam Speaker, the situation is quite bad. People have no food. Is Her Honor the Vice President, who I know is our mother, Madam Speaker, as well as grandmother, in order to remain quiet there when she knows that her people in Chama South need this food like yesterday? When are they likely to start distributing relief food? Because if they don't do that, Madam Speaker, we are going to lose lives as people are going without any meal. And where they survived Ruangwa River is crocodile infested. We are losing lives already. I seek your serious guidance, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I'll start with the first one, which has been raised by the Honorable Member for Shuangandu. Indeed, we have seen reports of the problems that are happening at the border between Zambia and the DRC. Of course, this matter relates to two countries, and they need to sit down as soon as possible to try to iron out these problems. And I understand from the report that some life has been lost. Some lives have been lost, and also there is a greater threat of further lives being lost. So on that ground only, I would allow the matter and direct the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs to come back to this House on Thursday, this coming Thursday, to deliver a ministerial statement on the matter. With regards to the one raised by the Honorable Member from Mfuwe, of course there is a matter that is happening currently, and I'm sure the police, this matter has been going on and the investigations have been running for some time. And we thank God that yesterday some progress was made and these girls were rescued. And I believe this is a matter that needs serious consideration and attention by the police to get to the root of the matter, to find out who is the perpetrator of this particular crime, what happened, and all those issues. So I believe if we started discussing the matter here in this House, it will have an effect of preempting and jeopardizing the investigations that are currently being conducted by the police. I believe we should allow the police to carry out the investigations, and once the investigations are done, maybe come back to this House much later to inform the House, and through this House, the people of Zambia, what exactly happened. Because I'm sure all of us, we are interested to know what actually happened. How come it took so long to get to the root of this matter? And we thought, and indeed we thought it was one child, but we ended up with 13 girls living in one house. And I think we need to give the police enough time to investigate the matter. We don't need to micromanage, like I said earlier on. We don't need to micromanage the executive in how they discharge and perform their functions. When they fail, that's when we can demand of them to come to this honorable House to inform the people of Zambia what actually is happening. And if there is any warnings that have to be, or warning that has to be made for the people to be aware of, then at that time, those warnings can be made. In terms of the one that has been, so we wait, the Honorable Minister through the Ministry of, through the police, let's allow them to carry out thorough investigations to get to the root of the matter. The one on starvation, I wonder what the Honorable Member for Chama South himself, what measures he has taken to ensure that the people in his area do not suffer from starvation, and whether he has even visited the office of Her Honor the Vice President to make representations and to ask for assistance, and whether Her Honor the Vice President has refused to provide that assistance. Coming to this House to raise a point of a matter of urgent public importance just like that will not help, will not be able to feed those people that are hungry right now. So I will guide, by way of guidance, I will request the Honorable Member for Chama South to go back to disaster management and make a request. If that request is denied, then only the Honorable Member can come and raise that issue and say, on a particular day, I went and saw Her Honor the Vice President, and she refused to give the people the food that they require. So please, let's follow that process. When it fails, then we can ask Her Honor the Vice President to account to the people of Zambia why she doesn't want to feed those people who are hungry. And hunger is everywhere anyway. So that is my guidance on those three matters. We can make progress. Question for oral answer under Standing Order 76. The Honorable Member for Kalabo Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I render this question with a heavy heart. And I bless the soul of my deceased brother in eternal rest. Question number 50.
Sincere condolences. May the soul of your deceased brother rest in peace. The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Member of Parliament is asking the Minister of Health whether government is aware that there is a critical shortage of insulin at all public health facilities in Kalabo District. Our response, Madam Speaker, is as follows. Government is not aware that there is a critical shortage of insulin in all public health facilities in Kalabo. Madam Speaker, for Kalabo District in particular, in Western Province, currently is overstocked with this life-saving medicine. Kalabo District, Madam Speaker, has the following quantities. 1, a total of 117 vials of short-acting insulin, and 2, 72 vials of mixed insulin, which is a mixture, mixed insulin, which is a mixture of both short and long-acting insulin. 3, Kalabo District has 53 long-acting insulin. The House, Madam Speaker, may wish to note that the above quantities of insulin translates into an estimated 6 months of stock at the current consumption of insulin in Kalabo District. To question B, what urgent measures are being taken to ensure availability of insulin in the district to prevent loss of life? My response, Madam Speaker, is as stated above, that Kalabo currently has sufficient quantities which can last a period when ZAMSA has done its bulk procurement to be delivered. Further, there is no need for panic, as the New Dawn government has taken measures to ensure consistent stability of insulin, not only for Kalabo, but the country at large. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. Supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Kalabo Central.
Madam Speaker, it's very disappointing. It's very, very disappointing, Madam Speaker, that I will forgive because they are human, because of the human weakness, I will forgive them. But on the level of governance, I will not blame them. I will not forgive them. Madam Speaker, when the minister is saying Kalabo District, to me, Madam Speaker, she's referring to 1, Kalabo District Hospital, Yuka Mission Hospital. Those are the 2 hospitals we have in that district. And referring to that district as having substantive amounts, I would like then to find out what caused the health workers at Yuka to indicate that there were no insulin available in that institution. The institution I'm talking about is in Kalabo district, where the minister is indicating. So why then did those officers state categorically that there was no insulin, leading to the family members to search for the drug? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order. The Honorable Minister of Health.
Madam Speaker, thank you for the follow-up question by the Honorable Member of Parliament. Madam Speaker, the question was to the effect that there's no insulin in all the health facilities in Kalabo. And Madam Speaker, I take my work seriously, if I may say this. When I got this question yesterday, I did try to contact the Member of Parliament, although his phone went unanswered, because I wanted to get details. I was concerned. Secondly, I did speak to ZAMSA to find out what the status was. I also did speak to my permanent secretary and the director clinical care, including the parliamentary officers, to get to the depth of this question. And I also wanted a bit of evidence, because it is true that sometimes, because we are not everywhere, sometimes information gets, somehow twisted. So I deliberately said I needed a bit of evidence. And what I was told was that it was not true to say that Kalabo district and in all the facilities. Madam Speaker, if you listen to the Member of Parliament now, he is saying there are some somewhere, but not somewhere else. If he had been specific to mention a particular clinic in the rural health center or a rural health center, then I would have been specific only to that particular place to find out. So the answer I'm giving is factual, and Madam Speaker, I'll lay on the table of this House the stock for the whole month, or starting from January, February, March, April, July, August, October, I think November, yeah, up to October, so that you can have, in your spare time, you can have time to look at this stock concerning the insulin question itself. I beg. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kalabo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would I be wrong if I said that there's discrimination in the dispensation of these drugs to the sick people? Would I be wrong? And if I'm wrong, why am I wrong? Thank you.
Order, 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 honorable members. The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for the follow-up question. I think my response, Madam Speaker, is that in this regard, the question has been correctly answered. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for... There is so much interest. We are talking about Kalabo District Hospital. Yeah. So we will not leave it open-ended. We need to debate the budget. The Honorable Member for Shuangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. And let me start by sympathizing with my honorable colleague for the loss of a relative on account of lack of availability of insulin. Madam Speaker, this matter should not be between the honorable member of Kalabo and the Minister of Finance or Minister of Health. We have gotten so many assurances, Madam Speaker, on the availability of medical supplies in medical facilities, which is not the situation on the ground in many areas. And this matter, Madam Speaker, has been brought to your attention on several occasions here in this August House. The question to the Honorable Minister is, you know, in fact, not to defend my colleague, the way we operate, Madam Speaker, is that when we have got a situation like that.
Honorable Member for Shwangandu. Supplementary question. It's not time to debate.
The question to the Honorable Minister of Health is that how are you going to instill confidence in all of us, including our colleague from Kalabo, over this issue of lack of drugs, such as the situation is in Kalabo, where there is no insulin, but you are saying there is insulin here in Lusaka, and you are depending on ZAMSA, who are based here in Lusaka. Did you bother to get on the ground, Honorable Minister, to establish whether indeed those quantities you have given to the House are the quantities that are that are being held in these facilities, and why was the relative to our colleague not given this insulin if it's available? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for your follow-up question. Madam Speaker, I think firstly, I think it's important to be clear on the question that has been asked and the answer as it relates to the question. I think it will not do to put words and make us look like we are giving false information here. In my response, I did not mention ZAMSA gave me the answer. I said I immediately consulted ZAMSA. This response is not from ZAMSA. This answer is not about ZAMSA. This answer is about Kalabo district. And so I could not fly to Kalabo yesterday when I got this question, but I did contact those that work on our behalf. And Minister, you've been a minister before through the chair. The way we work as ministers is to depend on information from the relevant officers on the ground, because the minister cannot be everywhere. The minister is everywhere through the officers. And yes, at times you can actually be misled. That's why I've laid a paper on the table for the speaker to verify. And this is an authentic document from the district specifying the quantities that have been there. Okay? Now, because this is an important question, Madam Speaker, I'll move away from Kalabo just for the information of the members, because now they're talking about ZAMSA, and this is a matter of national concern. Even His Excellency, everybody gets concerned, because this is about life and death. First of all is to state that the stability of drugs in our hospital is historical. One, the issue of resources. What have we done as government? Whilst the previous administration gave lip service to this problem by giving little monies, this administration in the budget doubled the amount of resources for purchase of drugs. That is point number one. And that is to show that we are equally concerned. The amount was doubled. This year, going forward, the members of parliament heard the Minister of Finance again make another increase for drugs. So, first of all, resources are important. Then now let's come to structures. The purchasing institution for drugs currently is ZAMSA. Madam Speaker, let me say this. The establishment of ZAMSA is not a creation of Madam Masebo or the New Dawn government last year. It is an act of this House, Parliament, where the honorable member on the floor was part of. This function was given to ZAMSA. Anything else was illegal. So the Ministry of Health does not procure drugs. We procure drugs through an institution called ZAMSA. And let me also use this opportunity, Madam Speaker, to tell the members. For ZAMSA to procure drugs, it's not like what used to happen before, where just a minister calls a meeting and informs the committee, please can we have an emergency purchase under the ministry?
Order. Honorable member, I've seen you. You can indicate. You don't have to stand. You can indicate. That's where we have all these. There is a point of order, Honorable Minister. There is a point of order.
Much obliged.
Order, Honorable Member for Luapu. Mansa.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Kalabo asked a very important question relating to a life-saving drug called insulin. Madam Speaker, lives are lost if insulin is not there. The Honorable Minister is trivializing her response to this matter by even alleging that ministers were ordering procurement of medicines. Is she in order to mislead the nation? Standing Order number 65 summons all of us to be factual as we debate. Does she have evidence, and is she in order to mislead this nation that ministers in the previous government used to order drugs? Madam Speaker, I seek your serious ruling.
Order. Honorable members, when you start making allegations against each other, I have no evidence that I can use to confirm whether one minister or one member of parliament is the one who is telling the truth. If the honorable member who has raised a point of order has got information to confirm what he's saying, then you'll be able to help me. But the honorable minister is giving a statement according to the information that she has. Can we allow her to state that? Order, honorable members. If this item is not of interest or you don't want to listen, then we can make progress. We go to another item. Yes, then if you want to continue, you have to respect me also like I respect you. There's no need of making running commentaries because that is in total breach of our standing orders. And you know that very well. It doesn't help to debate while you are seated. May the Honorable Minister continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the point I was making was that previously, the Minister of Health was procuring drugs. And I'm speaking factual here. And if somebody wants me to lay evidence, I can do that tomorrow. They would call for an emergency meeting to procure drugs using their procurement committee. This time, it's not like that. The ZAMSA has its own procurement system proceeding. And just for the information of the members here, the procurement, ZPPA procurement rules have changed over some time now. So sometimes people do not, we make the laws and we are not sure of what is happening. What is happening is as such. By law, ZAMSA, Madam Speaker, if they have to procure drugs, first of all, they have to advertise and ask for citizens to participate. After a period of time, citizens will participate. If the citizens fail in that procurement, then the next stage is for ZAMSA to advertise for local suppliers to supply. Again, another period of time for pushing the advert. I think maximum is a month, minimum is 2 weeks, which you have to ask authority from ZPPA to float it for a shorter period. After floating, if at the end of that procurement, the local suppliers fail to deliver, that is when ZAMSA now has to advertise what they call international open bidding. So you find that it is taking long this time around for ZAMSA to be on top of things in terms of making sure that they purchase what they want. So they cannot just wake up and buy. It's not that easy anymore because of all these efforts of trying to make Zambians participate and also looking at the fact that many Zambians do not have that capacity because this is a trade it was predominantly foreign. Now, the situation at the moment is that when ZAMSA tried to procure, now we are talking about insulin at the center. So the supply of insulin at the center is not as good as it should be. But if you talk about the supply of insulin in Kalabo district, they have enough stock for now until the next 2-3 months, according to the record as it is showing. The other point, Madam Speaker, to bring to the attention of members of Parliament is that I was informed by ZAMSA when I was inquiring concerning this insulin, whether they had insulin. And the response was that they have ordered, and very shortly they are expecting 140,000 vials of insulin, so for distribution countrywide. But they also stated that, because I also learned that they actually had cancelled a procurement. The answer was that they did not really cancel that. Please give it to me. Thank you. They did not. They actually said that a bulk open tender procurement valued at approximately 8 million to secure 140,000 vials of insulin estimated to last for 4 months was placed, but that earlier they had placed an emergency order of insulin to address current low stocks in some of the public health facilities countrywide. That unfortunately, the price that had been given to ZAMSA by one supplier who had insulin was almost 3 times the price. And
order, Honorable Minister. I think we are now going away from the question that is on the table. From what I can see is that there is the Honorable Member for Kalavo Central is asking whether or not the government is aware that there is no insulin in public health institutions in Kalavo. The answer of Honorable Member for Pambashe. Do you want me to give you the floor now? You answer, or you say what I am saying?
Or you want to become the speaker? Go and sit there.
Yes, so maybe the minister can take a seat. Yes, so the Honorable Member for Kalabo Central has asked a specific question. And the minister has said that according to the information that she has, there was enough insulin that was distributed to the health facilities in Kalabo. But the Honorable Member for Kalabo Central is still saying that there is no medicine or there is no insulin at Kalabo Central, at Kalabo health facilities in particular. So maybe the best way that we can sort out this problem, considering that the Honorable Minister has given a list of the stock that she has, it might be helpful if the Honorable Minister got to the ground, find out from Kalabo what is actually on the ground. Is there insulin or there is no insulin? So that we can satisfy the people of the Honorable Member for Kalabo to say whether the information that is giving is not supported or what the minister is saying is not supported. Because we could order medicine, and I know the Minister of Finance has provided enough resources for medicines to be procured. But it appears on the ground, the medicine is not there, from what I can hear from the honorable members. So maybe it might be of great help if the honorable minister got to the people on the ground in Kalabo to establish whether or not this insulin is there, and maybe come back to this house on Friday with a statement on this matter. We can make progress. Question for oral answer, understanding order 74. The honorable member for Pambashe.
I apologize, madam. I indicated for a point of order. Sorry for speaking, and then you captured my voice. You've done well to direct the minister and the man of done.
The honorable member shall not evaluate the presiding officer.
The question number 5-1, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Community Development and Social Services.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the following are the responses to the parliamentary question number 85, asked by Honorable Member of Parliament for Pambashe, Honorable Stotela.
question why the government awarded a contract for the procurement of motorbikes in 2021 April at a high price of 131 kwacha each. The answer: government awarded a contract for the procurement of motorbikes at a price that was at 130 kwacha each, because the price was fair and within the market price, as this can be demonstrated as follows. Name of bidder: 1. Cafelix Investments Limited. Brand name: Yamaha AG200, kwacha equivalent 131,000 kwacha 800. Duty inclusive, VAT inclusive, unit price 131 kwacha 800. The second bidder, Best of Bikes, valued at 138,000 kwacha. The third bidder was Saro Agro. Unit price was 122,000 kwacha. And lastly, fourth, Honda Zambia Limited, valued at 134,000 kwacha, 979. The prices were converted into Zambian kwacha using the US dollars: 22 kwacha, 23 ngwe, as at 16th April 2021, which was the closing day for the tender. Honda Zambia, Saro Agro, Best Bikes are the major suppliers of motorbikes in Zambia. And so the price offered by Cafelix Investments Limited in comparison to these presented market price was the best price. In addition, using the unit price from Saro Agro as the benchmark for price reasonabilities, it can be demonstrated that the price of 131,000 kwacha from Cafelix was 7.4 higher than the normal price. This is within the acceptable range, plus or minus 10% deviation of the market price as advised by ZPPA. The second question was, which companies participated in the tender? The following companies participated in the tender. Number 1, Cafelix Investment Limited. Number 2, Best of Bikes. Number 3, Honda Zambia Limited. Number 4, Saro Agro Industrial Limited. Number 5, Sarogo General Dealers. Number 6, PowerMed Limited. And number 7, Bearways Trading Limited. The second question was, which company won the tender? The tender was awarded to Cafelix Investment Limited. Number 4, when was the contract signed? The contract was signed on the 7th of December 2021 with an initial delivery period of 5 weeks, from which the delivery period was extended to 31st August 2022. An addendum to this effect was cleared by the Office of the Attorney General on the 26th May 2022. However, I wish to add that the request for bids for the procurement of these motorbikes were advertised in the Daily Mail newspaper on the 19th of March 2021, 19th of March 2021. This was followed by an evaluation process which was conducted on the 19th of March, from the 19th of March to the 23rd of July 2021. And the award of the tender was approved on the 4th of August 2021. Now, colleagues, you can ask me questions.
Thank you very much. Supplementary questions. The Honorable Minister is ready to answer your questions. The Honorable Member for Pambashe.
I thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wanted the Minister to confirm that the 7th December 2021, she was the Minister responsible for Community Development and Social Services. I thank you.
What is the idea here? To apportion blame or to see? Because the minister, whether she was minister at that time or not, I think it doesn't make a difference. It's like asking a male dog at that male or female. The Honorable Member for Kawambwa.
Madam Speaker, from the answer that the Honorable Minister has given, is that the bids were supposed to be received in August, and after 5 weeks, they were allowed. Cafelix, whoever this Cafelix is, should have delivered in 5 weeks, meaning that the delivery should have happened approximately before end of February. But we hear that the delivery was extended. Madam Speaker, is it reasonable to extend the delivery of motorbikes? Motorbikes are not complicated machinery.
Supplementary question,
Is
Honorable.
it reasonable to extend the delivery of mere motorbikes? Motorbikes, I submit.
The Honorable Minister of Community Development and Social Services.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, it is reasonable to extend the supply of bicycles, motor bicycles, vehicles. It is reasonable. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Pambashe.
Point of order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we read in the media that the contract that was signed on 7th December 2021 was the delivery was 5 weeks. After that, it was extended in up to May. After May, again, there was an extension, and there were indications of the contract being cancelled. Minister, if this contract is cancelled, don't you think it is going to attract litigation and the government may end up losing the money? I thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Community Development and Social Services.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. No, it will not. The contract was cancelled when it expired. In fact, we didn't renew it. As I said earlier, the renewed contract was ending on the 31st of August 2022. Upon its expiry, we didn't renew it. So the contract has been cancelled.
The Honorable Member for Nyimba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I think my question has been overtaken with the last answer from the minister, because I would have loved to know the make of the same said motorbikes, because yes, there are motorbikes which can cost at that figure, and there are motorbikes which cost at $1,200, like Gatoma, and Sanero G. And there are motorbikes who cost at that figure. Now, since there's no supply, I think my question is watered. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Matero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Allow me to thank you for visiting the Matero office yesterday. We are grateful. And also allow me to take this opportunity, Madam Speaker, to congratulate 18-years-old Robbie Chitambo that single-handedly yesterday rescued Pamela
Order,
and
Honorable
12
Member.
other women, other girls.
Order. Honorable Member for Matero, please. Let's desist from commenting on that matter. It's still under active police investigations. We can comment later after the investigations are done. And if you have an award, you can even award the young man. Proceed.
Madam, I wanted to award him, but since you've prevented me, I'll move on. Much obliged. Madam Speaker, my question to the Honorable Minister of Community Development is on this company that was awarded, Cafelix. The contract expired, so it couldn't have been terminated. Madam Speaker, first of all, the name Cafelix, that's the problem with some of these companies. Madam Speaker, I did my own research because when this company was awarded, it was in the media.
Honorable Member for Matero, sorry to interrupt. The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs has a point of order. What's the point of order, Honorable Minister?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise on point of order based on Standing Order number 65. Is my colleague in order, Madam, not to specifically mention that the PF were the ones who were managing this contract and it was awarded and they found that the contract was running? Is she in order not to mention so that they stop the accusations they are making? Are you in order?
Order, honorable members. Unfortunately, that point of order has been overtaken by events. Let's make progress. The honorable member for Matero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Piana Ngoa, Piana Namabala. Everything was inherited, so they are responsible. Madam Speaker, I did a research on Cafelix. Madam Speaker, they used their address, a road and the address in Matero. At that point, I was forced to research. When I researched, Cafelix's road they named in Matero does not exist. The address does not exist. Can the minister confirm that Cafelix, their address in Matero, is it real? Is it there? Or it's a virtual office? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Community Development and Social Services.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as a minister mandated to provide social protection programs to vulnerable people who are in most cases poor, I try to be mild in my responses. However, to ask about Cafelix, as I said, colleagues, the advertisement for the supply of these motorbikes were done sometime in 2020. The contract was awarded in April 2021. That is the May, June, July, August, September, before I became minister in this ministry. And Felix had been supplying in this ministry. But like I said earlier, I try to be gentle. I try to be a woman, gentle and lovely. Honorable Member of Parliament for Matero said it all. Upiana, apiana na mabala. Yes, and that we have done. Just as colored as this leopard here. What is happening in that ministry? But this contract, in a nutshell, was awarded 6 months before I became minister. In that ministry, I submit, Madam Speaker.
That is being a mother indeed. The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Indeed, we don't have to lecture to each other to understand that government is a going concern. And so when we could have done the accountability even on the other side. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Minister admitted that the other three suppliers, Best Buy, Honda, Zambia, and Saro Agro, were considered to be established suppliers. And obviously, in settling for a supplier, you consider such things as after service, guarantees. How then did the ministry settle for this Caferix, which was offering the price 7.5%, slightly higher than Saro Agro, whose price was used as a benchmark to award? Why was this decision made in such a way? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Now, I have a bit of a challenge here. In that the contract was terminated, there was no supply. So why are we keeping on debating something that is... do we really need to waste more time on this matter? I think we need to make a progress. The owner of the question had squandered his one question, but I'm going to give you just one question. Please, no more repetition of what happened to Feira. You can ask the question.
I thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is very important that the contract was awarded in August, as the Minister says, on 4th. The signing of the contract happens on 7th December 2021. And they gave the supplier 5 weeks in which to supply. Madam Speaker, didn't then the ministry, as they were entering into signature, binding the government of UP, and on 7th December, to the procurement process that was left by PF without signing, realized that the contract was way above the benchmarking price, which they stated by the response of the minister, that the benchmarking price was Saro. And Saro was one of the bidders who had bid at 7.5% lesser than Caferix. The ministry went ahead and awarded to Caferix by 7.5% higher than the benchmarking price. What necessitated minister to sign a contract on 7th December 2021 to Caferix that was 7.5% higher than the benchmarking price by the supplier called Saro Agro Equipment? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Community Development and Social Services.
Madam Speaker, I thank God that before I became a politician, I was a businesswoman. This contract, colleagues, honorable members of parliament, was already awarded in April with this contract sum. All what was remaining was for this supplier to supply the motorbikes. And he asked for an extension. And we didn't want to be unfair. We extended. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Anyway, Honorable Member for Pambashe, the supply didn't happen. The contract was terminated. Yes, so let's make progress. Next question, the Honorable Member for Kasanengwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 52.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The question from the Honorable Member for Kasenengwa, whether government has had issued exploration licenses in Kasenengwa district, if so, by how many licenses, and when the licenses were issued, and what findings from the explorations as of March 2022. Response, Madam Speaker. Government had issued exploration licenses to Kasenengwa district in Eastern Province, and there were 4 of them, and they were issued between 2020 and 2021, and so far there haven't been any findings because those that have been issued have not been cleared by ZEMA. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Supplementary questions, the Honorable Member for Kasenengwa.
It's interesting to know that there have been no findings because the mines were, or exploration companies were not cleared by ZEMA. But, Madam Speaker, I would want to bring it to attention that there is one company in Kasenengwa which has left open pit mines in Kasenengwa because they said they were given bulk exploration licenses. My question to the minister, are you aware that there was a company in Kasenengwa which was doing what they call bulk exploration? And if ever there's a thing like bulk exploration. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Member. I think you do well to bring that to the attention of the ministry, then we are going to investigate. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Pambashe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the Minister for the answer he has given, but I was left astonished. ZEMA is by law, they are part of the board that advises on the issuing of the exploration licenses and mining licenses. How did then they turn around and refuse to give approval when unless the law has changed? Part of the team that sits to approve the application of mining licenses. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. In my answer, I never said ZEMA has rejected or they are not allowed. They are still running with their processes. Suffice to say, Madam Speaker, that as a government, we are actually concerned with the length it takes for ZEMA to approve, because that is counterproductive and it is slowing down progress in terms of exploration. So government is also looking into these matters to make sure that ZEMA works faster than they are doing. But when these exploration companies are cleared, they will be able to start their programs. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kasenengwa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Through you, Madam Speaker, really, I do not know how to react to the Minister's response because according to the advice that you always give us, we go to these ministries, specifically to his, 3 times. The third one, he walked away from me. I was left seated there embarrassed. I ended up seeing the permanent secretary, the former permanent secretary. I addressed this issue with him. No response. Cadastro, I went there several times. It's like those people were tied. They couldn't give me concrete responses. That's how I brought this issue, Madam Speaker, to the floor of this House, because I tried to take your advice, which failed. So I don't know the best way I should come to your office, Honorable Minister, when last time you walked away from me. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, the issue of debating each other sometimes. Anyway, I've advised that when there is a challenge like that, we should approach the ministers to find a solution. So the Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development, you walked away from the Honorable Member for Kasanengwa, who was following my advice. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The honorable member is not being sincere because I receive ministers, I receive members of parliament, everyone that comes to my office, everybody who calls, maybe came and announced, sat in the foyer without announcing. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
So by way of guidance, the Honorable Member for Kasanengwa, please go and see the Honorable Minister again to try and resolve this issue and report back to my office, Honorable Member for Kasanengwa. Honorable Member for Nyimba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Minister, looking what is happening in Kasenengo, I think this thing is just happening everywhere along that stretch. Do you have inspectors when you give out this exploration license to supervise the exploration? Because what is happening, it's a sad story. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate so much for that question from the honorable member of Nyimba, who at one time was my boss in another life. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Mines has capacity issues in terms of checking what is happening everywhere in the country. However, as a New Dawn government, we are implementing the Mining Commission. That will help us now have capacity to have presence everywhere. It's a governance issue, Madam Speaker, and that's why when we took over, we said it was a scandal that the Minister of Mines is not present everywhere where mining activities are taking place. Now, through the new mining policy, which will be approving very soon through Cabinet, we have suggested the Mining Commission, and the budget has actually allocated money to that, so that we can now raise compliance levels in terms of those that are doing mining without the knowledge of the government. So we have taken note and we are very concerned, but we have done something about it, and very soon as the commission is in place, then these matters will be issues of the past. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Lukasha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mine was just to find out from Minister if the holders of these licenses actually pay area charges while holding the licenses. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. When the licenses are issued, because right now, since ZEM hasn't approved, there are no activities taking place. So you cannot hold them to any challenge, because then they'll challenge you back to say, we are not yet approved by ZEMA. So not until ZEMA approves them, that's when these things will be followed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kamfisa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Minister, in his response, indicated that between 2020 and 2021, these licenses were issued, and from that time, no work has taken place because ZEMA hasn't yet approved. Do you have plans, Honorable Minister of Mines, to review either the act that governs these operations or some procedures within your ministry so that once the license is issued, ZEMA is part of the approval process, and these individuals or companies would be in a position to commence works. Minister, I beg your answer.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
On a lighter note, Madam Speaker, the honorable member should pay attention because that was the first statement I said, that government is looking at making ZEMA work faster than they are doing because it is delaying. Now, how we do it, that's when we look at issues of policy and the Mines and Minerals Act and the ZEMA Act itself. So I may not go in the details, but when government works with laws, so I think that that process is ongoing. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Next question, the Honorable Member for Mwinilunga.
Question number 53. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker,
Order. The Honorable Member was in Mwinilunga enjoying pineapples. Her Honor, the Vice President. Does the Honorable Member for Mwinilunga want to say anything about the question before Her Honor answers?
Madam Speaker, I have something to say about the question. I wish to withdraw the question, but before I withdraw, I need to say something about the question because the people of Northwestern Province has interest in this question. If I withdraw without giving reasons, I'll be doing myself a disservice, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this question arose because of the debate in 2020 about the budget for 2021.
Order, Honorable Member for Mwinilunga. My problem is I don't know now what procedure we are following. If the question is going to be withdrawn, then just withdraw and maybe use other channels to explain your withdrawal. So that question has been withdrawn.
Most obliged.
Thank you. The clerk will now read the order of the day.
Supply motion of 30th September, resumption of debate.
When the House adjourned on Friday, 30th September 2022, the House was considering the motion moved by the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning that the House do now resolve into Committee of Supply on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 1st January 2023 to 31st December 2023, together with the annual borrowing plan, presented to the National Assembly in September 2022. Any further debate? Honorable Member for Mwembeshi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to thank you most sincerely for giving me this rare opportunity to support the motion of supply on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 1st January to 31st December 2023, ably moved by the Minister of Finance, Dr. Stumbeko Musokotwani, MP, on Friday, 30th September 2022. Madam Speaker, from the onset, allow me to congratulate the Honorable Minister of Finance, Dr. Stumbeko Musokotwani, MP, for the progressive and exceptional budget which has proposed a number of measures that will not only foster economic growth, but also, and most importantly, better the lives of our people. The theme of our budget is stimulating economic growth for improved livelihoods. Madam Speaker, the Minister proposes to spend 167.3 billion or 31.4% of the GDP in 2023. The 2023 budget is anchored on firm economic ground following the restoration of debt sustainability, stability of the exchange rate, lowered inflation, and increased investor confidence. Madam Speaker, allow me at this juncture to highlight some of the interventions which have elated me. Agriculture. Madam Speaker, I would like to agree with the Minister that agriculture remains the main source of livelihood for the majority of our people. It is true that the agriculture sector has been for a long time now the largest employer in the informal sector and provides the highest potential for formal employment across all sectors. In this regard, I am impressed that the government has proposed several measures aimed at enhancing the sector. Madam Speaker, the provision of the development of farm blocks could not have come at a better time than now. As you are aware, the effects of COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine has resulted in food shortages in some parts of the world. Therefore, the proposal by the New Dawn government to aggressively revive the development of farm blocks will not only increase food production in the country, but will also be a source of foreign exchange through the exports of various food crops and livestock to the outside world, such as China, United Arab Emirates, European Union, and neighboring countries in the region. Furthermore, the farm blocks will contribute to the creation of the much-needed jobs, especially for the youths who voted for the UPND in great numbers. I am also thrilled to note that the Minister has given clarity on the Farmer Input Support Program. In addressing the House, the Minister clarified that the program will continue amidst International Monetary Fund supported programs. This is a welcome move as abolishing the FISIP could have impacted negatively on the vulnerable farmers. Let me turn to education, Madam Speaker. Education has always been the #1 priority for His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema Mujende wa Jundu. He has on numerous occasions, the Tongabu, yes, the Tongabu. He has on numerous occasions spoken about this belief of education being the best equalizer. It is in this regard that since assuming office and under his able leadership, the government has actualized the promise of free education up to grade 12, recruitment of over 30,000 teachers, and providing of bursaries to vulnerable learners. I am therefore happy to note that the Minister in his 2023 budget has proposed to reintroduce meal allowances in all public universities. This is a very commendable move and goes to show that President Hakainde Hichilema has given, and his government has given high premium on education. Madam Speaker, I would like to also applaud the government for proposing to recruit 4,500 teachers in 2023 to be deployed in rural areas in the quest of improving the quality of education, contrary to the critics of the IMF-supported program. Health, Madam Speaker. As you are aware, from the time the UPND took office, there has been numerous serious concerns over the procurement of drugs and other medical supplies in most hospitals and clinics across the country. I am therefore delighted to note that the Minister has proposed to spend 4.6 billion kwacha of the health sector budget on procurement of drugs. The allocation represents an increase of 1.2 billion kwacha or 35.7% from the 2022 budget. Further, I'm happy that government will employ 3,000 healthcare professionals to improve the quality of healthcare in 2023. Constituency Development Fund. Madam Speaker, the New Dawn government increased the Constituency Development Fund by 150% from 1.6 million kwacha to 25.7 million kwacha in 2022. In just 1 year again, the government has proposed to increase CDF to a whopping 28.3 million kwacha to all constituencies in 2023. This is a very commendable invention that will ensure development at constituency level to drive the agenda on the local people. Madam, I welcome government's intention to amend the Constituency Development Fund Act number 11 of 2018 and the guidelines relating to the management of CDF so as to streamline the highly centralized approval processes, cumbersome procurement procedures, among others. Therefore, I want to commend the Minister of Finance for his decision not to recall any unutilized funds under CDF for 2022. This will enable all constituencies to continue with the selection and procurement of budget projects. Madam Speaker, I also want to talk about the monies which is called Equalization Fund, which is sent to every municipality across the country. Many people in this country just know CDF. They don't know Equalization Fund, and therefore we want to encourage the minister, as he has given money for Equalization Fund, so that this Equalization Fund and the projects in the councils is taken care of. With these few words, I wish to support the motion and encourage all honorable members to do the same. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The honorable member for Ron.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for the privilege you've given me to support the motion of supply moved by the Minister of Finance, Honorable Dr. Stumbeko Musokotwane, MP, on Friday, 30th September 2022. I would also like to thank the Honorable Member of Parliament from Mwembeshi constituency, Honorable Machira Jamba, MP, for ably supporting the motion. Madam, as I also support the motion, allow me to highlight among the following. I'll zero in, Madam Speaker, on 4 areas, and that is tourism, agriculture, debt management, mining, and of course, pay as you earn. Madam Speaker, on tourism, I want to commend government for taking measures such as the removal of visas for some countries like Canada, USA, European Union, China, United Kingdom, and indeed Japan. Madam Speaker, this removal of visas will attract more tourists to come to our country, and in turn, this will create more employment in the tourism sector. Madam Speaker, we are all aware that tourism was negatively affected by the COVID pandemic which hit the world. Madam Speaker, whilst I welcome this move, I would have, however, loved to hear the Minister extend this exemption to African countries that require visa when visiting Zambia. And I would, in the same vein, Madam Speaker, want to urge the Minister and the government to consider doing so. Madam Speaker, in agriculture, I would like to commend government for adding more incentives to the FISIP and the change of the name to the Comprehensive Agriculture Support Program. I am particularly encouraged that Comprehensive Agriculture Support Program, Madam Speaker, will include extension, service support, irrigation, development, access to finance, support to value addition, storage, and logistics. Madam Speaker, this is what our farmers need. However, Madam Speaker, I would like to state that of primary concern to me, Comprehensive Agriculture Support Program is the management of the beneficiaries list. And I would want to encourage and urge government to ensure that the right people only benefit from this Comprehensive Agriculture Support Program, unlike the fishery program was handled. Madam Speaker, under mining, allow me to commend government for the proposal to open new mines in Mumbwa, Mukushi, Ndola, and the much talked about nickel mine, which is estimated to be the biggest nickel mine in Africa. We heard the minister mentioning that 1.3 billion has been injected into this mine. These new mines, Madam Speaker, will surely increase revenue base for the government. Madam Speaker, further, the measure government is proposing to put in place to increase mining production from 800,000 metric tons to 3 million metric tons is something that is indeed commendable. The increase in production, Madam Speaker, will require manpower, which translates into more jobs and more youths getting jobs and more money in our pockets. Additionally, government's intention, Madam Speaker, to introduce a mining regulatory institution that will enhance the reporting of production cost and mineral content is also that something is welcome and is the way to go. As such, it will compel mining companies, Madam Speaker, to remit correct and authentic taxes to government. Madam Speaker, debt management. Debt management permits me to allow government for securing an external credit facility arrangement with the International Monetary Fund. The deal will help revamp the economy, which was nearly collapsing, Madam Speaker. Allow me in the regard to underscore the need for this administration, Madam Speaker, to put up stringent measures that will allow to safeguard the fund, Madam Speaker, against any pilferage. This will go a long way in helping us achieve the intended objective and, of course, as well, gain credibility with our creditors, including the IMF. Madam Speaker, on pay as you earn, I also want to state that I'm happy that the payee threshold will be adjusted upwards, Madam Speaker, from 4,500 to 4,800. This move, Madam Speaker, will positively impact on employees. Nevertheless, Madam Speaker, it would have been prudent that government considers increasing the same from 4,500 to 5,000. I therefore urge the Minister and the government to reconsider payee in the next budget. Madam Speaker, with these few remarks, I want to say thank you very much as I fully support the motion. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Nkana.
Madam Speaker, I wish to thank you for giving me an opportunity to equally add a voice to the motion of supply following the budget that was presented to this August House by the Honorable Minister of Finance. Madam Speaker, let me start by stating that this coming Sunday I'm turning 40 years, and therefore you wish to know that I've spent a considerable number of years learning governance over the last 40 years that I've been around. And within those years, Madam Speaker, and in my learning processes, I've learned that there is no such thing as a perfect budget. But it is true to say that we look for a progressive budget. And as we debate this budget, it is important to ask ourselves as to whether this budget has attempted to address progressively issues that confront our people or not. And therefore, let me confine myself to addressing issues of progressiveness. I'll start with the downsides of what I thought should have been addressed in the budget, and I'll go into the mining sector. I come from a community, from a constituency that is predominantly dependent on mining, and particularly KCM and Mopani. With the conclusion of the discussion between government and the IMF, and the culmination into that package that will come into the economy, we, the people on the Copper Belt, had anticipated highly that the Minister of Finance was going to set aside a considerable amount that should have gone into the recapitalization of Mopani. My colleague, the Member of Parliament for Kamfinsa, has elaborated before this August House the need to recapitalize Mopani, and I thought that as I must add a voice that we are very expectant. We speak so passionately, Madam Speaker, about the issue to recapitalize Mopani because our lives, where we come from, are all anchored around the existence of Mopani and KCM. And it is my prayer that government finds an answer to this issue before this destitution among our people continues to grow. Madam Speaker, let me further state that the Minister has indicated several times over the need for government to grow the production of copper to 3 million. But we have heard the reports that the production as of last year has gone down, meaning that we need to address existing mines as we look to open new mines. And therefore, it is our hope that we'll pay attention to the issue of Mopani. Let me go to the issue of the education sector. I want to be on record, Madam Speaker, to state that this government has shown a lot of commitment to addressing the issue of education. Number one, starting with the introduction of the free education policy, which now calls on all of us to address the associated needs to make the free education policy a reality. And I think that within our means, we've been given the resources to address issues of school infrastructure. Government has already attended to issues of recruitment of teachers. I think that they are in the correct direction. Secondly, Madam Speaker, there could not have been a better news for the students other than the reintroduction of meal allowance. I think that that must be commended because it is a pronouncement that this government made prior to the elections. We were on this floor, Madam Speaker, when I personally supported the motion to extend the bursary or loan support to other private institutions. What we were saying, Madam Speaker, is merely to open up the education sector to the private sector. Because when we move away as government from solely dependent on government or depending on government to finance the education sector, who have the liberty to direct resources into other ends. I want to again make this mention that government needs to consider, now that we're not politicking anymore, needs to consider that proposal that we free the education sector into private entities like banks to finance the higher education. Madam Speaker, I want to commend government for their commitment to continue building on school infrastructure. I am a beneficiary of the 120 schools in an area called Kamakonde, which has been in existence for over 40 years. And young people have had to traverse far and wide to access secondary education. So let me commend government over the commitment to continue pumping money in improving the infrastructure. That, I would say, it's progressive, Madam Speaker. Let me further, Madam Speaker, state here that there is a wide-ranging debate, Madam Speaker, over the need to reform the pension systems. And I've heard that Cabinet has already appended its signature to the need to improve or attend to the reforms in the pension sector. I wish, however, to press it on record that we need to address this issue very carefully. Number one, I want to take note of the increased allocation of resources towards addressing the backlog of the challenges in as far as giving our pensioners money. Madam Speaker, a lot of people have gone, or rather have died without getting their pension. Therefore, a move to allocate more resources to addressing not only the issues of the public pension arrears, but also the local government superannuation fund is a commendable and an effort well done. The caution, however, in regards to NAPSA reforms, Madam Speaker, is that as we look to enable NAPSA to waive penalties, as we look to enable NAPSA to provide amnesty over arrears, we must be careful not to allow complacency, because employers will become complacent if we give them the leeway, or if we give NAPSA the leeway to waive those long-standing penalties. So that move, Madam Speaker, I want to commend government, or rather appeal to government, that we must tread cautiously. However, let me state, Madam Speaker, that as we look at these reforms in the pension systems, let us allow our people to claim their contribution at intervals, because it will unlock resources into the economy, thereby allowing for employment of our unemployed individuals. Not long ago, Madam Speaker, I was looking at a pay slip of an individual who had just retired. He was getting 150,000 kwacha, and guess what the contribution towards taxes were? 98,000 kwacha, Madam Speaker. The pension package we get is perhaps the only resource we may have after having saved in various endeavors for a very long time. My appeal as we look at reforming the pension system in this country is that can we address the taxation of the last package that an individual gets? In my view, it would not be so bad to make the last money that somebody gets free of taxes, because then it will enable them to have a decent life as they leave employment. Madam Speaker, I thought that I must be on record to commend government over the steps that you have taken towards ending some of the perennial issues that we have confronted as communities, but also urge you that it is time to also address those critical issues, like the issues we've been lamenting about on the Copper Belt, that is to do with Mopani as well as KCM. And know that government is able, if only we focus and know that there's growing destitution on the Copper Belt. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Luena.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity given to the people of Luena to debate the budget that was ably presented by the Honorable Minister of Finance, Honorable Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane. Madam Speaker, the people of Luena are grateful to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, President Hakainde Hichilema, for this focused budget. Madam Speaker, the people of Luena are happy to see that the Molonga Day Secondary School that had been under construction since 2011 is going to be completed next year. The people of Luena are happy to see that the new district center, administrative center for Limulunga, which was being constructed at Kate, is finally going to be completed. Madam Speaker, the people of Luena are happy to hear that the government has made a policy decision that every institution of learning in this country, primary schools included, will be connected to the national grid in terms of electricity. This, Madam Speaker, is indeed a game changer. Madam Speaker, this budget is a budget the people of Luena are going to debate without throwing any punches. Indeed, there is no perfect budget, but this particular one can easily be described as a near-perfect budget. Near-perfect budget, Madam Speaker, because given where we are coming from, one did not expect that 1 year down the line, we will be turning the corner like we are doing in this budget. Madam Speaker, in normal circumstances, this is a budget that would have been coming somewhere around 2024, 2025. But Madam Speaker, when the economy is in the hands of economic geniuses such as His Excellency and his team of managers, it's within 12 months that we can talk about a budget that's growth-oriented. Madam Speaker, there is 11.2 billion to be invested in the agricultural sector. My colleagues have already alluded to the potential in this sector to double, if not triple, our employment numbers in this country. And with higher employment numbers, we can have got more people paying taxes, and therefore we can have lower taxes, which increases the money circulation in the economy, and therefore achieve higher economic growth. Madam Speaker, this is indeed very exciting. More exciting, Madam Speaker, is the fact that alongside the 11.2 billion going into the agricultural sector, there is also in excess of 5 billion that will go into road construction. And this takes me back, Madam Speaker, to my constituents. I can foresee that sooner or later, the road which currently ends in Limulunga and doesn't get to the new administration center in Kate will also be constructed alongside electricity being taken to Kate as well. The people of Luena are therefore very excited about this. I can see, Madam Speaker, that the long-standing roads from Katunda to Lukulu, to Watopa, to Mumbeji will also be constructed. Madam Speaker, I can also see that the road from Skongo to the border will also be constructed. Madam Speaker, I heard the Minister of Finance also specifically singling out some of the infrastructure that will be developed, even in areas where this government did not win a single seat. And many people were expecting or thought that this government will be vengeful. And anybody who thought like that has since been put to shame, because this government is distributing resources to all the corners of the country equally without any discrimination. This is indeed how to run a country. And where we've come from, Madam Speaker, was a classical example of how not to run a country. Madam Speaker, when I think of SMA Primary School, Ituku Primary School, Stoya Primary School, and Nangiri Primary School, and many other primary schools in my constituency. Madam Speaker, I can see that these projects that are going to open up the rural areas will also be followed by rapid economic transformation of those areas. Madam Speaker, and Mshutwambum, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the CDF, which has been increased at a time when nobody thought it was going to be increased this year. Madam Speaker, this is so much appreciated by the people in constituencies like Luena constituency. A simple arithmetic, Madam Speaker, will show that if in every constituency 10 classrooms are going to be built, we will have 1,560 classrooms. And Madam Speaker, at an average of about 50 to 60 pupils using that classroom, you have just under 100,000 children that are currently learning under trees who will be learning under a decent infrastructure. Madam Speaker, and if you think about areas where you can even have double streams, this can easily be 150,000 pupils. What will be the situation, Madam Speaker, 4 or 5 years down the line? Indeed, this country is on a trajectory that can only be described as getting us to being a developmental state. Madam Speaker, indeed, the major steps to development have been commenced. Madam Speaker, the restoration of meal allowances to our students has been welcomed by the students, and I read on the media that, in fact, they took to the streets to celebrate this important development. Madam Speaker, and I would like to link this to the pass rates or progression rates in our universities. Alongside giving this money to these students in the universities, Madam Speaker, we need to follow through and monitor the progression rates. It's high time we do not have situations where a university enrolls 6,000 students and we have 700 students graduating, because that is indeed an unproductive way of utilizing our resources. So the universities that are being funded so heavily by this government must also deliver. And the delivery that the nation expects from them is that they should be improved throughput. Madam Speaker, there is a lot one could say about this budget, but given that time, Madam Speaker, is a constraint, I could only say this is indeed Chintu Chabwino Maningi. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Member for Rwena, the honorable members want to know what it means. Chintu Chabwino Maningi.
Very, very good thing indeed.
Order. Honorable Member for Matero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. 16:24, I should finish. Madam Speaker, let me try for 1% of my speech to practice how it feels to be a praise and worship. Praise and worship. Madam Speaker, let me praise the CDF increment from 25.7 to 28 million. Well done. It's very good. But you should have increased it even to 100. Because the absorption rate so far, most of it is theoretical. If it's not reaching the people, it's taking 2 years to reach the people. That's everywhere to be absorbed.
Order. Let's allow the honorable member. Then, if you have any points, please take note, and then you'll be able to rebut.
Madam Speaker, my
The
time needs to
honorable
be added.
member also address the chair. Don't talk to the members.
Honorable member of local government likes to distract me. Praise and worship. UNZA bursaries. Well done. You've given the students. That's the way it should be. That's what we're advocating. But you've only given them, it's not even free, it's a loan, and you've only given a few. What about those in the private universities? All of us are being harassed in our constituents. Are they not Zambians, other in those universities? I praise you for those two issues. Pronouncements. On the theme of the budget was stimulating growth for improved livelihood. That was the theme. Madam Speaker, my theme for this budget is same old, same story as before. Not punching enough. Same things we hear. Last 15 years, the budget has never punched. I've listened to this budget. It's the same threshold increment. They just moved the threshold of per year. Same old. No punch. The only constant in this budget speech, Madam Speaker, is that the length taken to read is the same, 3 hours. Can it not be improved for surely? It's copy and paste at the ministry. Copy and paste, just change the figures. As I progress, Madam Speaker, this budget, Madam Speaker, instead of growing...
Order, honorable members.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The budget for 2023, instead of growing from 2022 budget was 173 billion. This budget has shrunk to 167 billion. When you put in the supplementary budget, give us hope. Budget should always look to increase. Why are you shrinking? The budget need to think outside the box. I'm looking forward to a day the budget will be read there as a punch. It's outside the box. Everyone goes, wow, this is the hope. But it's the same old. This budget, Madam Speaker, had zero revenue source. All of it is dependent on borrowing. What this new dawn has done, they've come cleverly with flowery words. Instead of using borrowing in the budget, they are camouflaging it, calling it financing something chakut. So that the people of Matero don't understand. It's borrowing. All of it will be financed by borrowing. You didn't show us where the fund will come from. On the fund, I was looking forward to see a fund for the youth. The biggest problem we're having in this country, Madam Speaker, is that the youths are unemployed. All the youths, remove the political tag. All the youths are in poverty. It's been ongoing, and there are many. We said it in the last budget. Do something for the youths. You are saying, no, PF. No, now it's your own youths. We've seen them after attacking us. They are tired of attacking us. They are now attacking yourselves. We've seen them giving ultimatums to ministers. We saw it, and we are warning you, you didn't listen. It's poverty. Have a fund for them. In this budget, there was no fund for the youth. There was a fund for tourism. Maybe through there, Honorable Skumba, see if it can go to the youths. As I conclude, the budget was lukewarm, no financing. Let me go to the major aspect of my debate, Madam Speaker. It's on the mining. The speech, Madam Speaker, on page 20, the Finance Minister, Dr. Stumbeko, on clause 90, said, and I quote, as government works towards the attainment of the production capacity of 3 million metric tons, we are working to urgently resolve the challenges at Konkola and Mopani copper mines. It has taken some time to resolve the challenges. Some time, Madam Speaker, it has not taken some time. It's taken forever, Madam Speaker. It's 1 year down the line. In the 2024 budget, you will be saying it's taken some time. Madam Speaker, here is the scenario. Kitwe, we have Mopani and Mufurira. And Chingola, we have KCM. Madam Speaker, there is no life going on there because these two mines are not moving.
And if the Copper Belt is not moving the mines, we feel it in Lusaka. Because no one is earning there, the suppliers. They are not coming to entertain themselves in Lusaka. They are not spending. Then our youths, what do they do? Even the youths of UPND, what do they do? They resort to crime. They abduct girls.
Order, 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 order. Honorable
Empower
member,
them.
Order, order, order. Honorable member for Matero, please take your seat. Honorable members, I guided that that matter is still under investigations. Does the honorable member for Matero have any evidence to show who abducted those children? You know, as we are here, we should debate responsibly. We should not incite people against anyone. We'll just be doing damage to ourselves. Let's control ourselves. May you proceed, but withdraw that statement, Honorable Member.
Much obliged, Madam Speaker. I withdraw that statement. There is no proof those abductors are UPND. They are youths of Zambia. They said it on videos, it's poverty. They want money. And I'm advocating that something is done to empower the youths. KCM, Madam Speaker, Mopani, we can look at it through the football. Nkana football is not doing well because Mopani, nothing is happening. Nchanga Rangers is not doing well. Maite is even been relegated, so it's Konkola. The solution on Mopani, Madam Speaker, it's even easier. Mopani is in the hands of government under the CMIH. Inject, find money for Mopani. Any money, dollar doesn't show where it's from. It can be from anywhere. But we know in Zambia there's no dollars. No one has money to inject in Mopani. Go outside there and look for the money. The only word you should avoid is the word called privatization. It's disliked out there. Use any other word. List the mine, find equity partners, but get it moving. Even KCM as well, the owners are there, and the owners, you said you give them back the mine, negotiate with them, don't you ask them to remove the case from the court, and they remove the case, and then the government is talking to other equity partners. Whatever you do, find the money. Go and list KCM on the stock exchange in London or Toronto. What's important, get KCM and Mopani to move. The issue of money in circulation will be resolved. Mopani and KCM is the heart. It's the nondo. Madam, the nondo is that part of a chicken given to the most treasured person in a home, who is the man, those days. In this case, the Zambian citizens need to be given cash flow from Mopani and KCM. Find equity partners. Just don't use the word privatization. We'll support you. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The honorable member for Mongo Central.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving the people of Mongo Central a chance to say a few words. And the Mongo Central is the heartland of Western Province. The people of Mongo Central are very excited about the budget that was given by the minister. It's a budget that gives a lot of hope. It's a budget that shows that once again, their vote was meaningful, that ushered in the new UPND government, that ushered in President Hakainde Hichilema to be at the helm of this economy. We also want to thank the Minister of Finance for the way the budget was delivered. I think, Madam Speaker, you agree with me that the budget is carefully crafted and was meticulously delivered by the able Minister of Finance. This budget has once more demonstrated that our President has a blueprint, has a vision to turn around this economy. I think we are coming from a past where we elected presidents without even a vision. Now we have a president who knows what he wants, where he wants to take this country to. And we have seen it in this budget, that the government has laid down policies and programs that are aimed at turning around this economy. We can see that if you read through the speech. And we, the people of Mongo Central, are very confident that this is the beginning of new things to happen. Last year, the people of Zambia elected the new UPND government. It was a tsunami. It was a political tsunami that ushered in the President Hakainde Hichilema to be the president of this country. And now, beginning with this budget, we are witnessing an economical tsunami that's going to turn around the economy of Zambia. We are confident, and the people of Mongo are very confident, that we are on the right path. The budget has been correctly themed, stimulating economic growth for improved livelihood. There's no doubt, Madam Speaker, that we need to stimulate this economy if we are going to see major changes. We need a catalyst, and that's what the President has done. So we are very excited about the pronouncements that have been made in the tourism sector that has suspended certain taxes on capital equipment, that has removed certain visas from certain countries. We see that, Madam Speaker, as a way of stimulating the economy. And we are confident that the tourism sector, even in Western Province, is going to witness growth. By the way, Madam Speaker, the constituents where the Minister of Finance, the constituents which he represents, the Liua constituents, has the second largest migration of wildebeest which in the world you can witness. You don't have to go to Serengeti to watch the beauty of wild beasts migrating. You can simply come to Kalabo there in the Liua National Park, and you witness that. And as the new Dawn government, we are working round the clock to ensure that we make these areas easily accessible. This coming week, we have an expo in Mongu, the heartland of Western Province. We invite all the honorable members of parliament to visit Mongu, as we are also launching flights to Mongu, from Lusaka to Mongu. You can now fly. You don't have to spend 6 hours on the road. You can now fly. We want that flight to be overbooked so that you can come and see the potential that the expo will reveal to all of you who want to go there and visit as visitors. You come and see the exhibitors that will be parading their various companies there and the products that Western Province can offer. So we invite you all to come to our expo. Also, Madam Speaker, in Western Province we have the Sioma National Park. People are not even aware that the third largest national park is in Sioma, in Western Province, Honorable Mandandi's constituents. There is also a falls there. So a beautiful scenery. So unlike my colleague Honorable Sampao says he doesn't see where the revenue is coming from, the budget is very specific. They want to, in the budget it says that the ministers made pronouncement that we want to grow domestic revenue to about 20.9% of the GDP. That's revenue coming domestically. That's revenue, Honorable. So we want to thank the new Dawn government for these pronouncements, and we see that this will help the Zambian economy grow. In the mining sector, Madam Speaker, the people of Mongo Central have asked me to congratulate the minister for maintaining the policies there and the current tax consistency. That's what happens when you think outside the box. For some of us who have the privilege to work outside in more urban economies, you know, it was such a strange thing that the moment you get a job, as you move into the bank, 30 minutes later you can come back with a house and a car without putting in a cent. You know, governments and even banks will force you to buy on hire purchase because they know it brings more value than buying cash. That's what the president is trying to do with the Minister of Finance. You know, mining is a long-term investment. attract the investors to come and invest. And as they do that, a lot of jobs, a lot of taxes are being created directly and indirectly. That's the smart way of doing things. We can't afford to have DRC surpassing us in terms of economic activities. So, Madam Speaker, the last thing I want to touch on is on the farming, the agriculture sector, and we want to thank the Minister of Finance for assuring the people of Zambia that FACEP is here to stay. And we want to thank him also for recognizing that it needs to be modernized, it needs to be reconfigured so that it can include extension support and financial support in that sector. We need to re-establish Zambia as an agricultural ecological region. We want to make sure that we increase the production that happens in this country in terms of farming. As I speak now in Kalabo constituency, there's wheat production. People are beginning to farm wheat there. We want to make sure that we increase production in terms of wheat. We want to grow wheat. We don't want to get wheat from, what is this country where there's war? Ukraine. We want to get wheat from Kalabo to grow this economy. That's what we want to. Madam Speaker, I thank you. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Member for Bwana Mkubwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing the people of Bwana Mkubwa to debate on this motion of supply, which was moved by the Minister of Finance, Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane. Madam Speaker, the people of Bwana Mkubwa, as I speak now, we have hope in this new budget. I'll quickly zero in and look at the health sector, Madam Speaker. Then I'll look at the education sector, Madam Speaker, and then look at the resource envelope and see if it's tallying and also speaking to what has been outlined in the budget. Madam Speaker, a healthy nation is a progressive nation. We do thank the Minister that they've provided about 10.4% of the budget to the Ministry of Health, broken down into the acquisition of drugs and other medical equipment as well as health infrastructure. The movement or the leap from the 2.7 billion to 4.5 for drugs by the Minister of Finance is a welcome move, because it entails, Madam Speaker, that even the people of Mushili in Bwana Mkubwa, they will have access to the medicines which will be procured by the ministry. But however, I want to urge the government to ensure that they streamline policies of procurement to ensure that even as we provide, you find you can provide for 4.5 billion, but the burning rate of these funds are so slow, and you find that medicines are not procured in good time, Madam Speaker. Let me also make mention about the health infrastructure, the 1.1 billion. This is a very good move. It entails that most of our main hospitals and clinics, they should be constructed and finished in good time for our citizens to access the much needed medical help. Madam Speaker, medical equipment is paramount to these facilities, because you can have facilities, but if you don't have medical equipment, then they're just empty places. Issues of x-rays, MRI scans, and all that is very, very important that provisions of such kind have been made in this progressive budget. Madam Speaker, let me move to education, which is about 13.9% of the total budget. Madam Speaker, education is a best equalizer, and we do thank the new Dawn government for the provision of the free education, Madam Speaker, which is very, very important that even kids from Kantolomba, Madam Speaker, can access education and come and represent their people in Parliament. Madam Speaker, the school infrastructure, they've provided 1.5 billion. Madam Speaker, we are hoping that even the people of Bwana Mkubwa have never had a secondary school since 1964, government secondary school, now they've got hope that they can have a secondary school. So we do appreciate and thank the new Dawn government for the provision of that school infrastructure development in our communities. Madam Speaker, the issue of school bursaries. You can have infrastructure, you can have schools, but if people can't access the much needed education, then it's all in vain. But this also comes in to complement them to ensure that our school going children can access these bursaries even through CDF. Madam Speaker, let me also come to the issue of water and sanitation, in which in this budget there's a provision of 2.2 billion. We do thank the new Dawn government, especially us coming from the Copper Belt, that Kafulafuta Dam, now the contractor has been paid to remobilize and finish that mammoth project, in which, Madam Speaker, we have water challenges in our constituencies, Bwana Mkubwa not spared. So going forward, if this is completed, then the water challenges in 5 districts, Sindola, Luansha, Kafulafuta, Masaiti, will have access to clean water to that effect. It's a commendable job because we need to give a credit where it's due, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if you look at our budget, let me also just highlight a few things on the agriculture sector. The provision of 11.2 billion, I'm sure most of my friends have debated on that, but I'll zero in on the issue of irrigation and farming blocks. That is very, very important because we need to be food secure as a country. Madam Speaker, most of the time we have our brothers from Congo and other countries surviving on Zambia. As we speak, we did offload about 450,000 metric tons of maize in the region. This entails that this sector can be our foreign exchange earner, in which our government can earn some money to ensure that they take to other avenues. Madam Speaker, time is not on my side. Let me also thank the new Dawn government for the provision of extension services to the farmers. It's very, very important that our farmers, Madam Speaker, are helped in that vein. These are subsistence farmers, Madam Speaker. There are new farming conservation practices which they need to learn to ensure that they can sufficiently produce for this country. Madam Speaker, let me quickly look into the resource envelope. I just want to contrast and look at figures because figures don't lie. If we look at our budget of 167 billion kwacha, domestic revenue which will fund this budget is about 111. But when you look at the introduction, especially of VAT on fuels such as diesel, it's very good. And ZRA intends to raise about 6.8 billion through that intervention for 3 months. But however, Madam Speaker, if I look at the wholesale price which have been provided by government through Tazama, which is about 18.116 per cube of fuel, it's gone down from the 18.399, which entails that are we going to lure most of these big suppliers to bring fuel into the country? Because for us to end the VAT, we need more imports, not what is it inland. So that is the contrast I wanted to make sure. It's important that we harmonize the two and ensure that we don't have revenue deficit in that vein. Madam Speaker, let me also, as I conclude, do thank the new Dawn government because, Madam Speaker, the fundamentals of economic fundamentals don't lie. We look at the GDP rate, which they need to at least be 4%. All those fundamentals, Madam Speaker, is what has brought us here today, that we are able to perform well as a country. We are able to have a stable exchange rate. It's not, Madam Speaker, rocket science, but, Madam Speaker, it's through the implementation of good principles of prudential management of funds, Madam Speaker, the also maintenance of international reserve to 3 months cover.
Order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
As the time is 16:40 hours, I suspend business for 20 minutes for a health break.
Business has been suspended until 17 hours for a health break. Under consideration is the motion of supply moved by the Minister of Finance and National Planning when he presented the 2023 budget. Calling on the floor of the House.
Yes, the House has also considered all the questions that came for oral answer, and one, of course, was withdrawn. So members of Parliament now continue debating the motion of supply, and we hope that they continue immediately after the House resumes at 17 hours. And for now, we take a break.
My name's Frank Simush Mayungo, even though the Frank is not on the official documents, but I've used it throughout my life. Born in 1969, 52 years old this year. I come from Skongo district as well as Kalabo district. Dad is from Kalabo district, whereas mom is from Skongo district, and I opted to stand from mom's side, that is the Skongo district. I did my primary education at a school called Liumba from grade 1 up to grade 3, and Liumba is in Kalabo constituency, and then Dad was transferred to a school called Stapa Primary School, which is in Skongo constituency. That's why I did my grade 4 up to grade 7. Thereafter, I passed my grade 7 and went to a school called St. John's Secondary School in Mongu. That's where I did my secondary education. In 1988, that's when I completed. In 1989, I went to the University of Zambia, where I studied the agricultural economics, completed in 1994. Then because at that time the government was doing restructuring of the ministries, so I could not get a job in the Ministry of Agriculture. I joined the Ministry of Education as what they called an trained teacher, but of course I taught agriculture science and biology at Linda Secondary School in Livingstone. Then 1998, that's when I joined the Ministry of Agriculture, posted to Kafiwe district, where I was working as a senior agriculture officer up to 2002. Thereafter, I went to do my master's degree in Belgium, where I studied human ecology, specialized in sustainable development. I came back to Zambia, and I worked for about a year. Then I joined the Ministry of Finance, where I was posted to Eastern Province to be the chief planner for Eastern Province. 2012, I think 2013, I lost my job. Of course, the reasons are obvious, issues that are common in this country. I stayed without a job. I started just doing my own things up to 2018. That's when I joined the World Bank project in Western Province called the PPCR. And then it was a contract for 1 year. I worked as a monitoring and evaluation consultant. In 2019, the contract ended, and that's when I decided to join politics. and I opted to vie for the Skongo constituency seat. Fortunately, went through the elections campaigns. I was adopted on the UPN ticket, and we are here today. Yeah, Skongo constituency is, I would say, I always say Skongo constituency is one of the least developed constituencies at the moment. It borders Shangombo and Liua constituents, as well as Kalabo constituents, and also it borders Angola. So, in terms of development, I think the constituency is very, very, very undeveloped to a large extent. And one really wonders why we found ourselves in that situation. 58 or so years after independence. But I think the reason is simple. I think Skongo has been neglected by successive governments to a point where, if you talk about education, for instance, we just have, I think, 39 schools, primary schools, some of which are community schools. Health facilities, I think we just have about 17 health facilities in different categories. You have got health posts, then you have rural health centers. But really, nothing much to talk about. In terms of road infrastructure, the only road that we have, the Kalabo-Skongo road, is still a gravel road, and the gravel is just because it's a road, but it's in very, very poor state. There are no buses that go to Skongo because of the state of the road. During the counter time, that road was well maintained. We used to have UBZ move on that road. But today, it's the opposite for us. We had UBZ in the 80s. Today, we have gone back to Scotch carts. If you go to Kalabo, what you see mainly are people moving using Scotch carts as the main mode of transport, whether for transporting agricultural products or the human beings themselves. So we have a big challenge in terms of development, but I always tell people that I think with the coming in of the new Dawn administration, there's some sense of hope that we are going to see a meaningful change in as far as development is concerned. Why I say so is because I think what we saw in the past, where we are more or less like being seen like second-class citizens, I think that is not the case now. Basically, I think when you focus on the CDF, the increase of the CDF from 1.6 to the 25.7, and then next year we're talking about 28.3. I think that gives us a lot of hope, and it gives us, I think, an opportunity to really do things and develop Skongo constituents ourselves. Because in Skongo constituency, we believe that actually we are going to be, or we are supposed to be, the drivers of our own development process. And I think that's what the CDF actually does. The CDF has been given to us as a constituents to decide for ourselves in terms of what our development priorities are and how we really want to move the development process for Skongo. So just for this year, out of the 25.7 million that we are given, in terms of infrastructure development, I think we have 40 projects that have been approved. Amongst those 40 projects are issues to do with mainly education and health. We made sure that all the incomplete structures that have been there, we've had a lot of white elephants in our constituents, because in the past we found the MPs were just building. You are saying you're building a health post, a classroom block, but you're just doing it maybe up to window level, up to slab level, and then you leave it, and then you move to another site. So we have a lot of such. So what we decided was it's pointless for us to start with new projects when we still have all these other structures that are not being used. So we pushed a lot of money to those so that we complete them. And then we come up with the new other projects, like currently we are doing a police post in Nyengo. We're also doing a storage shed. We're also doing maternity wings. We are also doing a lot of mother shelters, apart from the housing for teachers and the health facility and the health workers, as well as, of course, classroom blocks for the pupils. So we as Congo constituents, in terms of its development, I think it's anchored on agriculture. We have a strong comparative advantage in as far as agriculture is concerned. And when you talk about agriculture in Congo, basically we are talking about rice production, we are talking about sweet potatoes, we are talking about cassava, we are talking about wheat, which we have introduced. Right now, we have demonstration plots for wheat. Wheat used to grow in Congo in the past. In the 80s, I remember when I was still a young boy, wheat used to be grown. But I think it was stopped somehow, maybe due to the fact that we had a milling plant, a bakery in Kalabo, which was quite big for Mr. Kayangola. So, but when that bakery, the business ceased, I think even those who were growing wheat also lost the market. But we've come back because we've realized those are the kind of crops that we need to push our farmers to grow, because there's a lot of money in wheat. 50 kg of wheat costs roughly about 850 kwacha. Over the years, people of Congo constituency grow rice, especially on the plain, because Congo is made up of two sides, the plain and the upper land. The plain generally floods during the rain season. So with that flooding comes with it a lot of water, which is used for the growing of the rice. And now what we've decided to do is when the water subsides, when we harvest the rice, then we are pushing in the wheat. So what I'm saying is the coming in of the CDF for us is a big opportunity in terms of changing the direction of development for Congo constituency. But also the other important aspect that we need to talk about when you're talking about Congo is the proximity to Angola. Angola gives us a big advantage in terms of the market. Angola right now has needs a lot of products, almost everything else that Angola needs. I think they have to import, apart from the oil which they have, but oil also which is needed for us here, because we get our oil from far-flung areas, Middle East, Russia, and so on. But Angola is just about 30 kilometers from Congo, so the border with Angola is very near. So we want to exploit that huge market which is in Angola. Already we are having discussions with the Angolan consulate to see how we can supply products to Angola, because they need agricultural products, they need hardware, they need meat, that's beef. So, but all those things we can supply them from Congo. We have a lot of livestock in Congo. So what we are saying is, can we try and improve control the livestock diseases to an extent that we're able to meet the standards that are required in the international markets. If we do that, then we'll be able to create a lot of jobs for our people, we'll be able to bring in a lot of revenue that will come and help us develop Congo. So for us, what we are saying is, we want to make sure that even as we grow the rice and the wheat, we don't want to export it in its raw form. We want to add value to it. So what does that mean? It means we need to come up with the value-adding industries within Congo itself. We package our products, we do the milling and everything else, and then we can distribute not only to this country, but even to the outside world, because our products are needed almost everywhere else. And that's why we always say, when we talk about Congo, we want to ask the new Dawn administration to do us a big favor by completing or upgrading the Kalabos-Congo road from a gravel road into a bituminous road. Because when they do that, then we have unlocked the potential that Congo has in terms of development. There are so many things that we can talk about in Congo. There's also tourism that we have there. We have good planes. We are planning to take animals there so that we can now uplift the tourism industry as well. My word to my constituents is that they should not lose hope that maybe Congo will remain the way it has always been. I'm very, very sure that by the end of the 5 years of the new Dawn administration, Congo is going to be completely different. We'll make sure that the major infrastructure that we are needed there will be built. Schools, hospitals, roads, and I'm sure that the Kalabos-Congo road is going to be uplifted, given also the emphasis that the president has put on the market in Angola and how that market can be exploited through Congo. So we've been promised to have one border post. Right now we are going to build a secondary school in Skushi. We are going to build a main hospital in Kalabo. We are building the early childhood development center in Nyengo. So there are quite a lot of developments that are coming to Congo. And all I can say is let's all work together. Let's pull together as we change Congo for the better.
Keep watching Parliament Television, a station that brings Parliament closer to you. Right, just a short break, and business is expected to commence in just about a minute or so, as the House is considering the motion of supply. And at the time that business was suspended, Bwana Kubwa, Member of Parliament, Mr. Warren Mwambazi, had just a little bit more of his time, and business was interrupted. So we expect him to make a quick wind up in that few seconds that he did have. Pauline, I've had other members of Parliament who have contributed to the motion of supply since it opened policy debate this afternoon.
Yes, we had quite a number of members of Parliament who've added their voice to this motion that is being discussed. We had Nkana Member of Parliament, Binwa Mpundu, and we also had Luena Member of Parliament, Movita Nakoka, and Matero Member of Parliament, Mao Sampa, added their voice to this motion that is being discussed. Others also included Oliver Amutike, Member of Parliament for Mongo Central. So those are some of the members that have added their voice to the motion that is being discussed now in the House.
And of course, the day began with Mr. Bachila Jamba, Mwembeshi Member of Parliament, who spoke earlier, as well as Road Member of Parliament, Ron Chibuye. And so the House is currently considering policy debate, that is with regards to the budget address that was presented by the Minister of Finance and National Planning last week on Friday. And so this afternoon, members are now contributing, responding to contents of this particular document which was presented by the minister. And of course, we earlier had some other items that appeared on the order paper that include questions for oral answer. We had one question for oral answer under standing order number 76, which was of an urgent nature. I'll be able to give you some highlights of those, the response from the minister, as well as 3 other questions of oral answer. And then that's just about now. See those of you following us, the picture there indicates that members of parliament are still making way into the chamber, and as it stands, there's no quorum in the house, and so business cannot resume. So like we're saying, members have we had questions for oral answer, as well as the business under consideration, and so I was just about to say that we'll be able to give some highlights of those questions at the end of the live broadcast of proceedings.
Yes, Julius, we also had an announcement on the changes that have been made in the committees, the various committees of Parliament. And we had a committee on cabinet affairs, which has been announced as having a change, and also committee on delegated legislation. So Mr. Oliver Mutike has been appointed to go back to the committee he served on lastly, that is a cabinet affairs committee, and also Mr. Klazo goes back to continue serving on the committee where he was serving previously, that is a committee on delegated legislation. So these have been reversed according to provisions of Standing Orders 166(5) of the Standing Orders of the National Assembly.
Right, so we'll be giving you those the summary of today's business at the end of it all, as we await the quorum to be formed. And on the floor of the House is the motion of supply, and the motion that was moved by the Minister of Finance and National Planning, and members of Parliament are debating policy contained in the budget address. And so we have had a few members who have debated, and we still have opportunity for other members of Parliament to debate as they indicate, and given opportunity or given a time by Madam Speaker for them to debate. So just about now, seemingly we may just have a quorum, and we expect business now to resume. Stay tuned to Parliament Television.
When business was suspended, the House was considering the motion moved by the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning that the House do now resolve into Committee of Supply on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 1st January 2023 to 31st December 2023, together with the annual borrowing plan presented to the National Assembly in September 2022, and the Honorable Member for Bwana Mukubwa was debating. May the Honorable Member continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I conclude on this progressive budget, Madam Speaker, let me thank the Minister of Finance most sincerely and the New Dawn government for this progressive budget. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Any further debate? It appears there is no indication for further debates for today, but I'm surprised because on Friday, some honorable members were not very keen to adjourn. They wanted to debate there and then. In particular, the honorable member for Chinsali, but I don't see him now. I don't know whether, on a lighter note, I don't know whether I'll need assistance from my sisters from a neighboring country. But I really wanted him to debate today. Be that as it is, I'm sure he will debate. It was on a lighter note. So let me just make a correction. When the Honorable Member for Shuangandu raised the matter of urgent public importance, I erroneously directed it to the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security, when it was supposed to be Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, and in his absence, the Leader of Government Business. So that correction should be made. The matter of urgent public importance is directed to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and if he's not available, then to Her Honor the Vice President. So since there is no indication for debate, Her Honor the Vice President, adjournment. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the House do now adjourn. The question is that the House do now adjourn. Any debate? Any objection? The question is agreed to. The House? Is now adjourned.
Right, business has closed, and business has since adjourned until tomorrow, Wednesday, the 5th of October 2022. As you can see, Madam Speaker's procession making way out of the chamber, and then our members of Parliament will follow out suit to just indicate business has concluded today, Pauline, until tomorrow.
Yes, business for today has been concluded, and we have a look at what has been discussed on the floor of the House before we step aside rather.
Okay, and a statement, an announcement rather, was made in which Madam Speaker did announce that in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order number 166.5, she reversed the following appointments to the two committees, and these two committees are Committee on Cabinet Affairs, in which Mr. Oliver Amutike appointment to the Committee on Delegated Legislation, and therefore he goes back to the Committee on Cabinet Affairs. And with regards to the Committee on Delegated Legislation, Mr. Helazo, Member of Parliament, appointment to the Committee on Cabinet Affairs, and therefore he goes back to the Committee on Delegated Legislation. And after this announcement, we had questions for oral answer, beginning with a question for oral answer understanding order number 76, which is a category of an urgent nature that came from Kalabo Central Member of Parliament. Pauline.
We had a question of urgent nature from Kalabo Central Member of Parliament, Mr. Chinga Miutu, and this question was posed to the Minister of Health, and he wanted to know whether government is aware that there's a critical shortage of insulin at all public health facilities in Kalabo, and he also wanted to know what measures are being taken to ensure availability of insulin in the district to prevent loss of life. And in response, the minister indicated that government is not aware that there is a critical shortage of insulin in all public health facilities in Kalabo. And she said that for Kalabo district in Western Province, it is currently overstocked with this life-saving medicine. And she indicated that there is a total of 117 vials of short-acting insulin and also 72 vials of mixed insulin. That is, the third one, she said that there is 53 long-acting insulin that is available at Kalabo District Hospital. And the second part of the question, Julius.
And of course, she did indicate, Pauline, that the above quantities of insulin that you have just highlighted to translate into an estimated 6 months of stock at the current rate of consumption in the area. With regards to Part B, in which the Member of Parliament wanted to find out what measures are being taken to ensure availability of insulin in the district to prevent loss of life, the Honourable Minister indicated that Kalabo had sufficient quantities which can last a period when Zambia Medicines and Medical Supplies Agency, ZAMSA, bulk procurement will be delivered, and that therefore there's no need to panic as the New Dawn government has taken seriously measures to ensure consistent stability of insulin not only for Kalabo but the whole country at large.
And the next question came from Pambashe Member of Parliament, Mr. Chitotela, and he posed this question to the Minister of Community Development and Social Services. And the first part of the question, Mr. Chitotela wanted to know why government awarded a contract of the procurement of motorbikes at higher price of over 130,000 each, and he also wanted to know which companies participated in the tender and which companies won the tender and when the contract was signed.
And in response to this question, the Minister did inform the House that government awarded a contract for the procurement of motorbikes at a price that was over 130,000 kwacha each, because the price was fair and within the market price. And she also went ahead to indicate bidders that participated, which include Keflax Investments, which quoted the brand name for the motorbike as Yamaha AG 2000, and the kwacha equivalent, or rather the price that was indicated in the bid was 131,800 kwacha. Best of Bikes also quoted to deliver Yamaha AG 2000 at a price of 138,889 kwacha 38 ingwe, while Esalo Agro Industrial Limited quoted Suzuki DR 2000 SEI at a price of 122,687 and 81 ngwe. Last but not the least, Honda Zambia Limited quoted to procure or supply Honda XR 190 CT at a price of 134,979 kwacha 80 ngwe, and that the prices were converted into Zambian kwacha using the rate of 22.2383 as to a US dollar, kwacha to a US dollar. That rate 22 kwacha 0.2383 as of 16 April 2021, which was the closing day for the tender.
And of course, the big part of the question, Julius, the Minister indicated that the tender was won by Cafelix Limited, which was the best bidder at that time. And when the contract was signed, the Minister said that the contract was signed on 7th December 2021 with an initial delivery period of 5 weeks, from which delivery period was extended to 31st August 2022. And so that was an answer that was given to the question that was posed by the Minister of, the Member of Parliament for Pambashe, posing a question to the Minister of Community Development and Social Services.
And what was also important that the Minister did highlight that the contract was cancelled on 14th September 2022, and that the Ministry has since written to Zambia Public Procurement Authority, ZPPA, and the Attorney General's Office for notification and further guidance. So those are some of the highlights contained in the questions that came up for consideration. We still had another question, of course, that appeared on the order paper, to which the ministers responsible have indicated the responses. And this one of them is a question that came from Kasanengwa, member of parliament, to the Minister of Mines and Minerals Development, in which he wanted to find out whether government had issued any mineral exploration licenses in Kasanengwa district, and if so, how many licenses were issued, when the licenses were issued, and what the findings from the explorations were as of March 2022. The minister did inform the House that indeed government had issued mineral exploration licenses to Kasenengwa. With regard to the numbers, the minister informed the House that a total of 4 licenses were issued between 2020 and 2021, and that of those licenses there have been no findings yet because there is no exploration currently taking place in the area. And of course, we had another question from Mr. Newton Samakai before the House moved on to consider the motion of supply. And this is a motion contained in the budget address by the Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Yes, and this has also attracted debate from members of parliament. This was, of course, moved by the Minister of Finance and National Planning, and the motion was seconded by Mwembeshi, Member of Parliament, Jamba Machila, and of course supported by Joel Chibuye, Member of Parliament for Ron. And other members that have debated so far include Nkana Member of Parliament, Binu Mpundu. We had Mongo Central Member of Parliament, Mr. Oliver Mutike, and also Muvita Anakoka Luena, Member of Parliament. Others include Miles Sampa Matero, Member of Parliament, and also Warren Mwambazi, who concluded the debate for today.
Right, so as the day has closed, and we come to the end of today's live broadcast on television. Those of you who missed business, please do join our late evening broadcast on Parliament Radio as we rebroadcast today's deliberations. So from us all and the entire production team, we have to leave you now, but keep watching Parliament Television until tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.
To add movies to your subscription, how about 3?
Gotta get the job done. The whole squad coming through. You can't believe what you see. I'm doing me, move to my own beat.
Add movies has got you sorted.
Ready?
Mnet Movies 1 has got something for everyone to enjoy. From comedies to dramas, larger-than-life blockbusters, and everyone's favorite superhero.
Hello, Peter.
Mnet Movies 2 non-stop thrill ride of nail-biting, edge-of-your-seat, can't get enough action.
I got you. Don't worry about it.
Mnet Movies 3 brings you your favorite stars up close and personal.
I do so love perfect timing.
And for the kids...
Poke it up, poke it up, poke it up, Afro!
Get yourself ad movies for the whole month.
You might want to hop in.
It's your movie moment with DSTV.
Wait is over!
I have decided to name a new heir. I'm your heir. Dragons. A power man should never have trifled with. War is afoot.
Knives will come out. They see you as you are.
Zambia. Even saying the word is a multi-sensory experience. It somehow captures something of the essence of this special place in the warm heart of southern Africa. Take in the mighty Zambezi River, the majestic Victoria Falls that form Zambia's natural southern border, and the national parks overflowing with wildlife. Immerse yourself in the fast-growing towns and cities, teeming with history, light, and life. Then visit the vast lakes that seem to touch the stars and engage with the plethora of different ethnic groups, cultures, and languages. Together, they make up the intricately woven fabric of this remarkable country. To visit Zambia is to begin a love affair that will never be exhausted, and unlike any that you have ever experienced before. For all the superlatives that man has used in his attempts to describe Victoria Falls, none are able to do this incredible natural wonder justice. You have to see it for yourself. It is a truly awe-inspiring experience. Livingston, once Zambia's capital, and the Zambian side of the falls have become a mecca for discerning adventure tourists. Peer into the abyss from Devil's Pool at the edge of the falls. Career down the powerful rapids from Batoka Gorge in a whitewater raft. Bungee jump from the historic Victoria Falls Bridge. Or fly over the falls on a flight of angels. Whatever activity you choose, you'll be left with a renewed appreciation for the sheer might of nature. Kafue National Park is amongst the biggest in Africa and is home to more than 130 species of mammal and more than 400 bird species. Enjoy the wildlife from a different perspective on a boat cruise or a canoeing or walking safari. For sheer density of game, South Luangwa National Park is second to none. It certainly lives up to its nickname as the Valley of the Leopard. The stunning Liuwa Plains play host to the world's second-largest wildebeest migration and boast some of the most striking vistas you will see anywhere in Africa. At Kasanka National Park, you can view the largest mammal migration in the world when each November, literally millions of fruit bats cover the skyline as the sun sets. Zambia's bodies of water are as abundant as its wildlife. Although it is landlocked, this country has more water than any other in Africa. There are the long, meandering rivers, some of which are interspersed by waterfalls that are only narrowly surpassed by Vic Falls. Then there are the lakes, from the vast, remote Lake Tanganyika, far in the north of the country, which is one of Africa's Great Lakes, to Lake Kariba, Africa's biggest man-made dam. Kariba is an increasingly popular beach holiday destination that is strangely reminiscent of the French Riviera. Or for the best bath of your life, visit the incredible Kapisha Hot Springs. Another unique aspect of this remarkable country are the Zambians themselves. The country is home to 72 different ethnic groups and languages, all of whom have their own diverse cultural traits and traditions. One thing they do have in common: they are all unfailingly warm and welcoming. Zambians are famous for their very own special brand of hospitality, as well as the pride they take in their Zambian identity. Wherever you go in Zambia, you will meet people who will go out of their way to leave you with a positive impression and make you feel at home. So what are you waiting for? Book your trip now and enjoy the kind of African experience you've always dreamt of. Whatever it is you're looking for, you can always be sure to find it somewhere in Zambia. So let's explore.
Mungandu Davison is a second-born son of Irene Nguni and James Mungandu. I was born in Chama, started my primary at Chama Primary. 1990, my father was transferred, or he retired rather, so I continued my primary education in Chikwa. So I wrote my grade 7 at Mangwere Primary School in 1995. 1996, I was selected at Chipata Day in Eastern Province. So I did my grade 8, grade 9 at Chipata Day High School. I wrote my grade 9 in 1997. 1998, I was selected at Hillcrest National Technical School in Livingston. So I was at Hillcrest from 1998 to 2000 when I wrote my exams. Exams came out in 2001.